All right, my name is Mikki Coss. I'm with the Florida Keys Mosquito Control District. I'm the Director of Operations. I'm here to talk about the diverse operations throughout the Keys. Florida Keys consists of over 800 islands stretching over 180 miles. Each of these islands are affected by tide in some way or another. We have 42 bridges throughout the Keys, and 2/3 of Monroe County, the Florida Keys, are made up of wetlands. Florida Keys Mosquito Control has partnered with many organizations throughout Monroe County. You can see here with the checkered red, those are all no spray zones throughout the Keys, which makes our organization more larval control than anything else. We partner with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We also deal with the State Park Services, Navy, and of course, private properties. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife consists of both the Great White Heron Wildlife Refuge and also the National Key Deer Refuge. They're located in the Lower Keys. You can see here in the red, they're owned areas of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. All of the offshore islands that are not connected by the bridge are also areas that we are allowed to go out and inspect and treat with BTI only. There's many endangered species throughout these areas, including the key deer, the white rice rat, the Lower Keys marsh rabbit, and multiple species of butterflies. Because of the endangered species, we have worked out an agreement with the Fish and Wildlife and their protected lands. You can see in the map on your left, the blue areas are non-citizen parcels, which are managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And of course, the small portions of yellow, which are privately owned property. To be able to treat these properties effectively, it would not work at all. So we did on the map on the right work out agreements of being able to treat particular neighborhoods with fog trucks. Basically in green are the areas that we can treat with fog trucks. The red lines are the areas that we were able to treat with fog trucks, but are no longer parts of our routes. Next, we work with the Florida State Fish and Wildlife. Highlighted in yellow are parcels that are managed by them. They're on many islands throughout the Keys. They're also owned by nature conservancies throughout the Keys, but are managed by Florida Fish and Wildlife. Many islands throughout the Keys have these parcels, and each island has a different agreement and the threshold of when can be treated for adult mosquitoes. We also work with the state and national parks throughout the Keys. We have 15 areas. Each one has a varied agreement and lists of products that can be used on that property. And of course, next we have the Navy. We have Boca Chica Naval Air Station and also the Key West Navy bases. Here we're showing the traps and landing rate counts throughout those installations. In Key West, you'll see 4 separate areas in and around Key West, which hosts multiple defense agencies. Key West Navy Housing is also a separate entity in those areas in Key West, which is also a different contract with different reporting and product contents. And next, of course, we have the privately owned properties, which of course is per label. These are all the challenges made out through the Florida Keys. To answer this, we have 32 field inspectors throughout the entire Keys. Each inspector has their own designated area and treat everything within that area, whether it be from tides, the rain barrels on people's properties, solution holes, drains, anything within their area. their biggest job is public relations and teaching the residents how to take care of their yard. And they also make personal relationships to gain access. Sometimes domestic inspections could be known as garbage collectors because they're picking up tires and turning over water holding containers in each person's yard. And we have 4 offshore inspectors. They're treating both private islands off the beaten path and offshore islands that are owned by, managed by U.S. Fish and Wildlife. The offshore inspectors are setting traps, collecting. They're also IDing all the traps in the lower keys and the larval collections brought in by all the inspectors throughout the lower keys. And of course, we have the 4 top research entomologists and biologists. They are in Key Largo, Marathon, and Key West. And we do have our other components to wrap up our great organization. All of the inspectors and biologists, office staff, we all use Field Seeker, both the desktop and the phone application. In the office, we create reports of all the data that's entered. We monitor and enter service requests. We can check the ring gauges and landing rate counts live. Inspectors will enter all their counts and ring gauges and all their treatments, trail maintenance, truck maintenance, enter their public relations and anything that they do out in the field. They also can put proposed treatment areas for future larvicide or barrier treatments. They can select any known polygon or a portion of it. They can create an entirely new polygon or polygons to treat by selected due dates. Proposed aerial treatments are set in a staging area and then are responded to by the aviation department, which leads me to Josh Kogut, the Director of Aerial Operations, and he will discuss the diverse aerial operations from that task.
Thank you very much, Mikki. Let me just get the screen up here. Okay, thank you very much for having me. Is everybody okay and hear me?
Yep, everything's good.
Great. Today I'd like to talk to you about some of the diverse operations here in the Florida Keys. As Mikki stated, we have some of the most unique geographical locations to conduct mosquito control operations, and obviously that rolls over to the aviation department in those challenges. We'll be talking about some of the typical days here in the Florida Keys in terms of our treatment areas, what tidal and floodwater activity does to those typical days for us, and some of the tools that we utilize to combat those problems. As Mikki stated, we have a very large, lengthy area in Monroe County here in Florida. Throughout this area, we operate 5 different landing zones and loading zones for our aerial department. And we are located in Marathon, where our central location is. All of our aviation assets are located here in Marathon. One of the biggest challenges we have is really getting to the treatment areas throughout the day as proposed treatment areas come in, just given the geographic distances between several of the areas. Starting off here in Marathon is our home location, as I stated. We have 6 helicopters and 2 fixed-wing aircraft that we operate out of Marathon. Going back to those distances, we operate from the central going to the north. Our first stop, loading location, if you will, is 33 miles away. So in order to even get to some of the areas, we're traveling for 20 to 30 minutes by air just to get to where we're treating. Here we operate out of Tavernero Park. It's a small airstrip up to the north. Going further up to Key Largo is our highest location to the north. And that's going to take another 15 miles. So if we are to go from Marathon to Key Largo to treat just for a single day, we're looking at least a 30 to 45-minute trip there and then another back. So it can get pretty interesting. Several locations we operate out of are dead-end roads, small areas throughout the Keys for loading zones. We are geographically limited in the amount of real estate left over for landing, just given the population down here is increasingly getting larger and larger. So it's difficult to find loading zones. Going to the south, to our Big Pine location, our Lower Keys location, We have another 22 mile trip to get down to there, operating again off small dead end roads for loading zones. Continuing on to our next location is Summerland Airport we operate out of. That's an additional 23 miles down. And then finally down to Key West will take us another 20 miles. So again, going from our central location down to our southernmost point can take a good 35 to 45-minute flight. And this is Key West Airport, which we often operate out of. Looking at an average summer day for us, we typically have about 800 acres of granular larviciding. That's kind of a typical treatment day for us. We would usually utilize 2 aircraft for those kind of days. This is basically rain and water only, rain events only. This is not any kind of tidal activity. When we do get tides in conjunction with our standard rainfall in the summer, days like this can easily go up to 2,100 acres, requiring me to have 3 aircraft operating throughout the Keys. This is just the lower Keys, and this is a typical day. You can see the flight paths of all the aircraft and the areas that we've treated through our tracking systems. One of the ways that we're able to do this is through technological advancements, better technology and better equipment. So here is a picture of one of our newer H-125 Airbus helicopters. We utilize an AgNav spray system. You can see in the lower right-hand section of the picture, and some of the most advanced GPS navigation systems and tracking systems we have. One of the ways that we are able to do this so efficiently is active flight following and wireless remote data transfer. So Mikki, my associate, had touched on the fact that we utilize Field Seeker software. So they're able to take Field Seeker, enter PTAs for us to treat, and we are now able to send them directly to our helicopters without having to actually plug anything in, take anything with us, USBs, et cetera. So we can actually do it through the air, which makes sending PTAs to my helicopter pilots very fast. Again, this is kind of a picture of a standard day showing some of the tracks for treatment areas. In the center there, you'll see where we have a central loading area. So going back and forth, you can see the amount of trips it takes to get from the loading area to the areas we treated them back to that loading area again. This decreases the efficiency of the spray operation. So the less times we can travel back and forth between the treatment area and the loading zone, obviously we can treat more acres fast. How this works is you'll have a field inspector in the field, as Mikki said, testing and then entering that data into the Field Seeker software. It can then be transmitted via the cell service down here to our flight follower or dispatch area, depending upon who that person is for the day. We can then take that proposed treatment area request, transfer it over to our software utilized in the aircraft, our AgNav software, and that can be sent back again to the helicopter, to the aircraft or the airplane. And from there, the pilot will receive a message on his screen saying he actually has mail. Actually gets a blinking sign there up to the right-hand corner so you've got mail. And then from there, the new spray area is downloaded into the aircraft and the pilot can begin entering it. We utilize a 4G system and enhancement system for the cell service down here, given the kind of remote geographic locations. So we have what's called a hotspot in all the aircraft, which downloads or assists us in downloading cell service to the aircraft, which is then sent via Wi-Fi to the aircraft system itself. Sure thing, I'll wrap things up here. The aircraft, basically, we treat in 3 areas for this day. If somebody in the field were to add a real-time treatment area, we could actually take that immediately and send it to the aircraft, and therefore the aircraft would not have to deviate to go back and get another load. They could just keep spraying as they receive new things. Last but not least, I'll wrap things up. Previous days of loading used to look like this. Several people in the field helping to assist the helicopter in loading. It could take upwards of 20 to 30 bags to load our aircraft up. Our new system that we built in-house is a 6,000-pound granular loading system, and it sprays or loads the aircraft directly through air, and we can fuel at the same time. So we're able to get in and out of a loading zone in about 8 minutes for a full load and with fuel. So this greatly increases the amount that we can do per day. Thank you for your time.